Welcome to the Law of One channel, my brothers and sisters. I am Robert, your humble host. Today's video, we're going to discuss the pyramids, for there is much confusion and questions about to their purposes. I hope to be able to answer and elaborate on the purpose of the Great Pyramid of Giza. This material comes from the Law of One, the raw material. Initiation. Questioner. Well, then you speak of the pyramid, especially the Great Pyramid, I assume, as primarily a healing machine, and also spoke of it as a device for initiation. Are these one and the same concepts? I am raw. They are part of one complex of love, light, intent, sharing. To use the healing aspects properly, it was important to have a purified and dedicated channel or energizer for the love light of the infinite creator to flow through. Thus, the initiatory method was necessary to prepare the mind, the body, and the spirit for service in the Creator's work. The two are integral. Questioner. Does the shape of the pyramid itself, is that a key function in the initiation process? I am raw. To begin, there are two main functions of the pyramid in relation to the initiatory procedures. One has to do with the body. Before the body can be initiated, the mind must be initiated. This is the point at which most adepts of your present cycle find their mind-body-spirit complexes distorted form. When the character and personality that is the true identity of the mind has been discovered, the body then must be known in each and every way. Thus, the various functions of the body need understanding and control with detachment. The first use of the pyramid, then, is the going down into the pyramid for purposes of deprivation of the sensory input, so that the body may, in a sense, be dead and another life begin. Questioner. By saying that the Queen's Chamber was the initiatory place, could you tell me what you meant by that? I am raw. You are aware of the concept of initiation and realize that it demands the centering of the being upon the seeking of the Creator. We have hoped to balance this understanding by enunciating the law of one, that is, that all things are one Creator. Thus, seeking the Creator is done not just in meditation and the work of an adept, but in the experiential nexus of each moment. The initiation of the Queen's Chamber has to do with the abandoning of self to such desire to know the Creator in full that the purified, in-streaming light is drawn in balanced fashion through all energy centers, meeting in indigo and opening the gate to intelligent infinity. Thus, the entity experiences true life, or as your people call it, resurrection. Questioner, you mentioned in speaking of the pyramids that the resonating chamber was used so that the adept could meet the self. Would you explain what you meant by that? I am raw. One meets the self in the center or depths of the being. The so-called resonating chamber may be likened unto the symbology of the burial and resurrection of the body, wherein the entity dies to self, and through this confrontation of apparent loss and realization of essential gain is transmuted into a new and risen being.
Questioner, could I make an analogy of, in this apparent death, losing the desires that are the illusionary, common desires of third density, and gaining the desires of total service to others?
I am Ra. You are perceptive. This was the purpose and intent of the chamber, as well as forming a necessary portion of the king's chamber's position's effectiveness.
Questioner, can you tell me what this chamber did to the entity to create this awareness in him?
I am Ra. This chamber worked upon the mind and the body. The mind was affected by sensory deprivation and the archetypical reaction to being buried alive with no possibility of extracting the self. The body was affected both by the mind configuration and by the electrical and piezoelectrical properties of the materials which were used in the construction of the resonating chamber. Heidi ho, this is Robert. I'm going to give you a little overview of what the pyramids are all about. They're not free energy devices. They're not burial chambers for the pharaoh. They were built as spiritual centers for initiates of the law of one. My understanding is they were constructed approximately 7,000 years ago. And we're talking about the Pyramid of Giza. They no longer serve the function they were originally built for, that of raising one's vibration who was using it as a tool. Our Earth is already raised much higher than any vibration one could attain at that time, just naturally. So the use of building or using a pyramid is not necessary now. These are my humble words. And now for some more information, let's speak to the ones who built the pyramid, those of Ra. Questioner, were you responsible for the building of the pyramid, and what was the purpose of the pyramid? I am Ra. The larger pyramids were built by our ability using the forces of one. The stones are alive. It has not been so understood by the mind, body, spirit distortions of your culture. The purposes of the pyramids were two. Firstly, to have a properly oriented place of initiation for those who wished to become purified or initiated channels for the law of one. 2. We wish then to carefully guide the initiates in developing a healing of the people whom they sought to aid and the planet itself. Pyramid after pyramid, charged by the crystal and the initiate, were designed to balance the incoming energy of the one creation with the many and multiple distortions of the planetary mind-body-spirit. In this effort, we were able to continue work that brothers within the Confederation had effected through building of other crystal-bearing structures, and thus completing a ring, if you will, of these about the Earth's surface. I am Ra. The so-called Great Pyramid had two capstones. One was of our design, and was of smaller and carefully contrived pieces of the material upon your planet which you call granite. This was contrived for crystalline properties and for the proper flow of your atmosphere via a type of what you would call chimney. At a time when we as a people had left your density, the original was taken away, and a more precious one substituted. It consisted in part of a golden material. This did not change the properties of the pyramid, as you call it, at all, and was a distortion due to the desire of a few to mandate the use of the structure as a royal place only.
Questioner, what did you mean by chimney? What was its specific purpose?
I am Ra. There is a proper flow of your atmosphere which, though small, freshens the whole of the structure. This was designed by having airflow ducts, as this instrument might call them, situated so that there was a freshness of atmosphere without any disturbance or draft.
Questioner, how were the blocks moved?
I am Ra. You must picture the activity within all that is created. The energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortion of your peoples. This is an obvious point well known to your peoples, but little understood. This energy is intelligent. It is hierarchical. Much of your mind body spirit complex dwells within an hierarchy of vehicles and retains, therefore, the shell or shape or field and the intelligence of each ascending intelligent or balanced body. So does each atom of such a material as rock. When one can speak to that intelligence, the finite energy of the physical or chemical rock body is put into contact with that infinite power which is resident in the more well-tuned bodies, be they human or rock. With this connection made, a request may be given. The intelligence of infinite rockness communicates to its physical vehicle, and that splitting and moving which is desired is then carried out through the displacement of the energy field of rockness from finity to the dimension which we may conveniently call simply infinity. In this way, that which is required is accomplished due to the cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator indwelling in the living rock. This is, of course, the mechanism by which many things are accomplished which are not subject to your present means of physical analysis of action at a distance.
Questioner, I am reminded of the statement, if you had enough faith, you could say to a mountain to move, and the mountain would move. I assume this is approximately what you are saying, and I am assuming that if you are fully aware of the law of one, then you are able to do these things. Is that correct?
I am Ra. You are precisely correct in your understanding of the congruency of faith and intelligent infinity. However, one is a spiritual term, the other more acceptable perhaps to the conceptual framework distortions of those who seek with measure and pen.
Questioner, then if an individual is totally informed with respect to the law of one and lives and is the law of one, such things as the building of a pyramid by direct mental effort would be commonplace. Is that what I am to understand? Am I correct?
I am Ra. You are incorrect in that there is a distinction between the individual power through the law of one and the combined or social memory complex mind body spirit understanding of the law of one. In the first case, only the one individual, purified of all flaws, could move a mountain. In the case of mass understanding of unity, each individual may contain an acceptable amount of distortion, and yet the mass mind could move mountains. The progress is normally from the understanding which you now seek to a dimension of understanding which is governed by the laws of love and which seeks the laws of light. Those who are vibrating with the law of light seek the law of one. Those who vibrate with the law of one seek the law of foreverness. We cannot say what is beyond this dissolution of the unified self with all that there is, for we still seek to become all that there is, and still we are raw. Thus our paths go onward.
Questioner, was the pyramid then built by the mutual action of many of your people?
I am raw. The pyramids which we thought built were constructed from thought forms created by our social memory complex.
Questioner, then the rock was created by thoughts in place rather than moved from somewhere else. Is that correct?
I am raw. We built with everlasting rock, the Great Pyramid, as you call it. Other of the pyramids were built with stone moved from one place to another.
Questioner, what is everlasting rock?
I am raw. If you can understand the concept of thought forms, you will realize that the thought form is more regular in its distortion than the energy fields created by the materials in the rock, which has been created through thought form from thought to finite energy and beingness in your, shall we say, distorted reflection of the level of the thought form.
Questioner, this is slightly trivial, but I was wondering why, in that case, the pyramid was made of many blocks rather than the whole thing being created at once.
I am raw. There is a law which we believe to be one of the most significant primal distortions of the law of one. That is the law of confusion. You have called this the law of free will. We wish to make an healing machine, or time-space ratio complex, which was as efficient as possible. However, we did not desire to allow the mystery to be penetrated by the peoples in such a way that we became worshipped as builders of a miraculous pyramid. Thus, it appeared to be made, not thought.